I think we can all agree that the main reason we got into the gym in the first place was to be more aesthetic, to look better, you know? That was definitely the case for me. I was sick of looking skinny, fat, and just not attractive in general. So if you're in that same position, this tier list might help you out a bit, because today I'm ranking the most aesthetic muscles, all the way from peak aesthetics down to not aesthetic at all. If you're at the start of your fitness journey, I definitely recommend focusing on the muscles that end up in the higher categories. So let's get right into it. And first of all, we have abs. Right. Abs is obviously one of the main reasons we all got into the gym in the first place. We all wanted to have a six-pack. We all wanted to look shredded. So that's definitely going to be going into peak aesthetics. A well-rounded six-pack is honestly one of the most aesthetic things you can have, but you have to be lean to get it. A lot of dieting, a lot of ab workouts, but once you get it, you're feeling amazing. It's also the main muscle group that's sort of tied with female gaze, female attraction. So if that's what you're on here looking for, definitely getting a six-pack is going to be where you want to start. All right, next is biceps. Biceps are a major one. Chicks love biceps. Dudes love biceps. Honestly, having a good pair of biceps is essential for looking aesthetic. Just being able to chuck up a pose pretty much anywhere, or walking around in a shirt with the short sleeves and the biceps poking out of there, definitely a very important thing to have if you want to be an aesthetic person. So I think I'll put that one into peak aesthetics as well. Honestly, these two are goated together. All right, next is triceps. Triceps, a bit like the biceps, they definitely play a role in making you have that like really good aesthetic looking arm, having that arm that sort of hugs the inside of your sleeves. But people don't put as much emphasis on it visual wise as they do with the bicep. Even though it makes up like 2/3 of the arm, it's kind of more important than biceps when it comes to actually looking aesthetic. But in terms of just visual appeal, I'd say the biceps mog it a little bit. So I'll put that one into aesthetic, because if you don't have that, your biceps probably won't be aesthetic either. All right, next is Alex Eubank and his big chest. We all know that chest is important for an aesthetic physique. It's definitely one of the harder ones to grow, but once you get there, once you see some progress with your chest gains, you're going to be feeling a lot better. You're going to be able to fill out your shirts. You know, you'll have that defined look. And we all know that the women's love to sleep on your chest like a big pillow. And it's honestly kind of a mog if your chest is bigger than hers. So we'll put that one into... I might put that one into peak aesthetics, honestly. All right, following that is the forearms. Forearms are pretty essential. You know, even if you've got a longer sleeved shirt on, you can have your forearms out and people will see that and just know that you lift. So honestly though, a lot of your forearm gains will be genetic, but there is definitely great exercises to grow those. Mine are pretty good, but they were always kind of pretty good. Like, I had big forearms before I even started training, and then training just made them better. So I'll put this one into aesthetic, just because even when you're rugged up, people can still tell that you've got a good physique. All right, next is your legs. Big quads, big hamstrings, things like that. The upper part of your leg. It's not as important for visual aesthetics, but if they are underdeveloped in comparison to the rest of your physique, you are going to look a little bit silly. So I'd say if you want a well-rounded physique that, you know, actually draws attention, you definitely need to be putting some emphasis on your legs. But in terms of actual attraction and female gaze and, you know, just overall aesthetics, I don't think they're that important, because you can kind of just wear some long pants and avoid having to train them in general. But I'll put them into mid, just because eventually they're going to see you without your pants on. All right, next is traps. Traps is one that I definitely am advantaged in. I always had big traps even before I started training, and honestly, I don't think they play a huge role into aesthetics. They're definitely good for looking jacked and looking like a big, like muscly dude, I guess, but I don't think they're that important when it comes to actual visual appeal. So we'll put them into not important. All right, next is shoulders. Having wide shoulders is probably the most important one in my opinion. I got pretty lucky there as well, but I'm going to put that one straight into peak aesthetics, because just having big shoulders is honestly going to be goated when it comes to visual appeal. You're going to be filling out shirts. You're going to look wider. It's going to give you a better V taper. And yeah, I think putting emphasis on the shoulders is probably the first thing you're going to want to do if you want an aesthetic physique. All right, coming right off of that one is the V taper itself. V-taper is important. Having that upside down Dorito looking physique is incredibly important for aesthetics. So I'm going to put this one into aesthetic, because it's kind of not as important as, you know, your shoulders and your chest when it comes to having that. But once you finally get it, it is going to be very appealing. So I'd say that one's pretty aesthetic. All right, next is glutes. Don't ask me where I found this zesty R picture, but glutes, I don't think they're that important. Girls always say they love the good ass this, good ass that. But in terms of actual aesthetics, I don't think it's that important. You know, you really don't see dudes flexing their glutes on Instagram that often. I mean, maybe you do, but I certainly don't. So I'm going to put that one in a not important because I just don't really see the appeal for having big glutes. I don't even train mine, so I just realized that there was a typo in not aesthetic category the whole time. So lucky we didn't put anything in there yet because there was a friggin' typo in that one that whole time. But anyway, ignore the typo because we're on to the last one, which is carbs. And I think now that I've fixed the typo, I'm happy to put carbs into not aesthetic. Having overly large calves is honestly just a little bit weird. And then having small calves is honestly just a bit weird as well. You're going to look weird either way unless you just have perfect calf genetics. They're very hard to grow, so I don't think in terms of aesthetics, you should put much emphasis on them. Definitely train them, but people really aren't looking at your calves. You know, they're right at the bottom of your physique. It's kind of like saying, are your feet aesthetic? Not really. So I'd say they're probably the least aesthetic out of all the muscles on this list, just because who cares, man? Like, no one cares about those. You know, when you're making eye contact with someone, they're only looking at the upper part of your body. They can't even see your calves, so I wouldn't worry about calves at all. And that is pretty much the whole list, guys. I couldn't really think of any other important muscle groups to put on there, so that'll be the list. Definitely, if you are at the start of your fitness journey or you just want to look more aesthetic in general, put some emphasis on the first two categories there, peak aesthetics and aesthetic. If you grow those muscle groups and really put emphasis on training them hard with real intensity, good diet, you're going to start to look and feel a lot better about your physique. So I'd definitely do that if I were you. But that is going to be pretty much it, guys. If you are liking these tier list videos, please let me know in the comments because I'm having fun making these and I'd love to make some more. Drop some ideas if you can think of anything. And yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this one, guys. So lots of love and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.